Hello,
Hello,
fire
fire goddesses,
goddesses,
and
and
welcome
welcome
to
to
Reclaim
episode
Your Fire podcast. My name
86.
is Angela
In
Noel, and
today's
I am the host
episode,
of the
I have a
podcast.
very
I'm really
special and lovely
excited
guest, my
just to be
friend, soul
bringing back
sister,
guests again after
and
taking
just
this
amazing
hiatus from
human, Shauna
podcasting.
Bryant. In this
And I'm
episode,
really
Shauna and I
excited and
chat
looking forward
about
to
a
this
little bit of
conversation with
everything when
my
it
next
comes
guest,
to
Shauna.
self-care,
She has a lot
self-love,
to offer.
self-trust,
She's quite a light in this
having
world.
fun,
And
celebrating us
without
as
further ado, I'd
women.
like to introduce to
And
you
it was
Shauna
really just
Bryant. Hey, Shauna,
a
how's it
magical
going?
conversation that I
Hi,
can't
I'm
wait to
so
share with
excited to
you.
be here. I'm
And
actually
Shauna,
nervous. Isn't that so
as you'll quickly
funny?
discover,
You're
is
nervous?
also
Oh my
a
gosh.
podcaster,
All right.
and she has this
Well,
show
we're
called The
just going to get
Possibility Show.
talking
So
and shake those nerves right
everything,
out.
all of
I'm
her
so
credentials, I'm
honored to
going to
have you.
link
Yes.
up.
I
They
know.
are
Thank
linked
you.
up
Take it
into
out,
the show
dance, do
notes,
whatever you need to
so you can
do.
find them
Have
there.
some
She also
fun.
mentions them
Have
at the
some
end of
fun,
the
of
show.
course. Yes.
I hope you enjoy this
So,
conversation.
Shauna, I'm just
I highly
curious to
invite you to listen
know,
to it to the
who
very
are
end,
you
because Shauna
and
is
how do you
a
help
busy mom
people?
of
That's
3
such a
boys.
big,
She's a
amazing
business
question.
owner. She is
So
a
I'm Shauna
farmer.
Bryant.
She's
Thank
very
you,
busy,
Angela. I'm
and she
really,
still
really, really
manages
honored to just
to
be here and
practice
spread
self-care.
all
And
the,
I find her very
ruffle feathering
inspiring, and I just loved
messages
her
that I
energy.
have to do.
So without further ado,
So who
goddesses,
am
please
I?
welcome
I
Shauna
started out
Bryant.
my kind of journey as a food blogger for a
Hello,
really long
fire
time.
goddesses.
Loved
Welcome to
it,
the
and
Reclaim
then
Your
I
Fire
went on a
podcast.
very interesting,
My name is Angela Noel,
burnout
and I am a prosperity
journey,
coach for
after
the
having
newly
my third
awakened
son.
or awake curious,
And that took
driven
me on an incredible
overachiever,
ride,
and
which
overdoer.
healing
After
is
running
like
a successful
journey, a
acupuncture
lifelong
practice in Boston for
process.
12
And
years,
how
I decided to
serve
hang
women
my
now,
hat by
just
closing
seeing
the practice and
the
pursue what it
cultural
is that
things
I'm
that we
really
are,
meant to
expected
do in this
do
world,
as
and that is to
mothers
serve
and
humanity
women.
online
So I
on a global
really
scale,
help women,
using my
I guess,
background
kinda
in
get
Chinese
back into
medicine,
themselves
along with the brain
and
science
own
of
their
habits,
power, stop
spirituality,
asking for
and divine
permission,
masculine and feminine energy balance.
really
I am here to
get
help
into
you not
themselves
just
as far as self-care. I
understand,
guess you can
but
kinda call me like
know
a self-care
how powerful you
mentor.
are, and that you
Because
are
it
the
starts
person
with
who is
us.
responsible for
I
having
really
the
think that we can change
finances,
the world and
inner
everything,
peace,
the ups and
radiant
downs,
health,
the current
and
affairs,
energy, aka the
just live better
fire
lives
in your
when
life that
we
you've always
know who we
desired.
are and
My
know
intention with
what
this
we want
podcast is
and
to
feel
serve humanity,
this
no matter
first.
what
So
gender
that's
you
kind of like a
identify
nutshell
as,
of who I
to
am.
help bring out
I'm
the
a
divine feminine
farmer
goddess
by
in
day
each
and a
and
self-care
every
coach
one
by
of you.
night. So
As you
that
probably are
sums
already
me up, I
aware,
think.
the
Oh, I
world is
love that.
changing,
Yes,
and it's
you are a
begging
farmer, right? You
for the
live,
goddess to
actually,
come out
you
in
live on a
each and every
farm,
one
correct?
of
And you
you.
have
Well,
animals.
we
So,
have
fire
we have a
goddesses,
farm. We're not
stay
currently living on it.
tuned.
We did, but we just had 7 piglets.
Oh.
We have 5 pigs. The piglets are like little mini sausage rolls. How many chickens do we have now? 20, and 2 dogs.
Oh, wow. Wow. I did not know that you had pigs too. That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
They're so cute. I love that.
It's a lot, but yeah, my life is full. 3 boys, a farm, and a business. So there you go.
I can only imagine, Shauna. Well, thank you for taking, I know that your time is valuable, and I really am grateful that you took the time today to come and talk to the audience, because
Of course.
what we talk about, it's through the sharing that really, I believe, can really help change the world. It's through these raw, real conversations. So, and I'm just curious to know, you mentioned, first of all, self-care master, or self-care mentor. I really like that title. I really like that.
A master. I was like, master, I like that one too.
That one's good too.
Yeah.
Good too. So, if you could just, help the audience understand, because I feel like self-care is quite a buzz term.
I agree.
Everybody's talking about it. It's like, we know, and we talked about this off air before we came on air, is, everybody kind of knows what we have to do. We need to eat right. We need to sleep and do all the things. But why are we still like, in terms of self-care, why do you believe that people are still struggling so much when it comes to being able to self-care and take care of themselves?
That's so good. I think it's because we are living by almost like these expectations to live for other people, if that makes sense. It's like, me just with a mom, as a mom of 3 boys, I was instilled, even growing up, shown by my mom, this generational patterns that like self-care is selfish. You're lazy if you take rests. We're going to pack you with this guilt when you rest, or it's not even necessarily about resting, but there's so many pressures. If I think it's what it is. It's like these pressures that if I'm not spinning my wheels, if I'm not on this hamster, and and you can feel that, and so you don't stop, or you don't slow down enough to go, what do I need today? Because we're selfish if we do that. There's this I got to keep going. I got to fill my daily up, my day-to-day to-dos, and we're on this thing, and literally we just don't stop. We just don't stop to say, hey, what do I need right now? Like, why do I have this headache? We had talked about that a second ago. Why am I so stressed out all the time? Why am I so snappy with my family? Why, it's because we never slow down enough, and we're not, I think it's like we're not given permission because we're looking outside of ourselves for all the answers. Like there's no we're looking outside of ourselves for the input, and when can I take a break, and when can I go get therapy, and when can I do all these things. That's an internal job, like, and mine, I would probably still be on the rat race had I had not experienced my burnout. I had candida. I could not get up off of the couch. I think it was after my third. The exhaustion, and oh my God, I got to keep the house clean, and it's too much for one human being, but we continue to do it until our bodies say no thank you. We're stopping.
We're stopping. Yeah, we're breaking up right now with this.
We're breaking up because you're too much.
Yeah, you're too much, and not in the way of like, you're, so many people have heard, like, right, like if you actually do want to take care of yourself, and if you are loud and you are expressing yourself, you're too much. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like, you're too much. You're doing too much right now, and you're wearing us out. Like we can't do this together anymore.
This is not a healthy partnership any longer, right?
It's not a healthy partnership. And I like how you describe that as a partnership, because we are in partnership with ourselves. And, I don't think a lot of people even look at it like that, right? Like, especially as women, where I know that I got those messages, not really my parents a little bit, but it was more from society. It was from like watching. I remember my mom's like, don't watch soap operas, like, because of the messaging, or even just like taking care of yourself, or idealizing like what a relationship looks like, that it's all like love and rainbows. And
yeah,
anyway, I could go, that's a different conversation, but yeah, the whole lazy thing, like how often I can remember many, many times hearing that from, in one way or another, from women in older generations, like, oh, I'm being so lazy today. I've been sitting.
I saw it in my own, literally, my mom had 2 jobs. She was basically the sole provider. My dad worked away. So she was putting us through school, doing our lunches, making us dinner, and had her, and I don't remember her ever stopping. And I remember the same thing with her mother. She had 7 kids, and she passed, not healthily. And it was just, it's the pressure to keep going, and then guiltify you, if that's a word. It's like they want to make it seem, and I don't know who they is. I don't really know. I'm not really into the whole like patriarchy that I've kind of studied it a little bit, which I think that's where it comes from. But it's like the pressure and the guilt that comes along with it if you slow down, if you take care of yourself. So we just keep going.
Yeah. And, and I just want to mention, because that's so true, right? And I want to just recognize, like, you know, the older women, because they did pave the way for us. And there was a reason for that kind of lifestyle and behavior back then, right? Like if you didn't get it done, right? Like it comes, I think, from the industrial revolution, right? Like you needed to work hard, right, to have a rewarding life or to get the things that you needed. But now that's not necessary. Like that, and so many times you may have already heard, like, to the goddesses listening, like, let's end the generational trauma. We don't need to live like that anymore, right? The world is changing, and we don't need to be living still from an era of 100 plus 100, 200 years ago, you know. And that's one of the things I like to talk about a lot, actually, is we're living in an outdated society, and it's time to
1000 everything. So we're all modern, we're all, you know, into this new stuff, spiritual and evolution and evolving and all that. Yet we have partners that are living in, you know, the old past, and we have, you know, jobs, and we don't get paid as much, and we can't slow down. It's time to evolve. That's what I'm going to say. It's time to evolve because we're exhausted, we're burnt out, we have a tendency to let our needs fall completely back, you know, like down on the priority list, and then it starts to show up into different things, you know, health stuff, relationship stuff, you know, your kids are and the thing that really affected me was that my kids are watching, you know. So I am now in a space, we had talked about this earlier too, like I want to stop all that chaos, you know, the crazy stuff. Let's stop and say, how do I want my life, and how do I want to leave my legacy almost for the kids and for their kids and for people that are coming behind us, you know what I mean, or in front of us. I don't know which direction they're coming from.
Yeah. And I like how you address this, because a lot of times people are like, oh, you know, I don't understand, you know, if there's any kind of confusion or resistance about doing this kind of work and really stepping into your self-care. It's being selfish is actually showing and modeling for your children. If you don't have children, maybe you have other people in your life that are watching you.
Absolutely.
You're helping them say yes to themselves, right? So if they're struggling with something, or if your kids, you know, if your kids are struggling with something, they know that it's okay and it's safe, right? To say, hey, I need to stop doing this homework assignment right now and just take a break, however that looks like for a child, or however that looks like to somebody who you're mentoring or helping.
Well, yeah, and it could be at work even, or, you know, it's not necessarily just for the mothers, it's at work environment, or your nieces and nephews, or, you know, we had talked about this too offline, like, would you treat those that you love, kids, nieces, nephews, you know, even animals, would you treat them the way that you treat yourself? You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes back to self-care, everything starts here. And then when we can model it to those around us, it literally is like handing, I know this is kind of dramatic, but it's like handing them the empowerment torch. Like it's you, you know, like everything always begins and ends with you, because if we're looking outside of ourselves for the answers, or our partners to solve our problems, or, you know, whatever it is, it starts and ends here, because when we're good, everything around us is good, you know. And I know there's some kind of saying, it's like the world wants the best of you, not what's left of you. And that's so true, especially for everything going on in the world right now. Like if you're bothered by the events or the stresses, or, you know, everything that we've all experienced in the last 2 years, like when will it be your turn to dig in and heal this and do the inner work? Because when you do that, then one person that follows you will change, and or your son will change, or your, like when we heal, the world heals. And I think that's the bigger message behind self-care, because self-care, you had called it, it is very buzzy, but if we don't take care of ourselves, who will, right? Who will?
No one, no one's going to take, I think it was James Wedmore, right? He did a podcast episode like 2 years ago, and he titled it like, so it was definitely one to get he's good at that, like getting those titles to catch your attention. And basically the message is no one's going to save you, right? No one. Your partner may want the best of you for you, but your partner's not going to save you if you don't. No one's going to save you except for yourself. And I also kind of want to, I like how you, if we could just talk a little bit about current events and relate it to self-care, because I think it's so important to bring this up.
I agree.
What I'm seeing right now is this guilt and shame and this need for feeling bad. And if you're not, and it's not, it doesn't mean that you're not a compassionate person or a good person if you are choosing to take care of yourself first during these times. And the reason why, like this, I'm seeing, I mean, I think it's getting better. I think the messages are getting better. And I'm just curious to know of your input too, Shauna, is if we're continuing walking around, and I get it, like the energy, I went out last week and ran some errands and the energy was heavy. There was so much sadness. But I think of what our mentor, Jim Fortin, says, right? We have a choice. We can keep ourselves wet with everybody else and be down with everybody else and allow that to control our lives, or we can choose to take care of ourselves and we can actually help more people when we are in that higher place, when we are dry. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that, or if you've noticed anything with your clients personally, like in regards to current events and just the feelings that come up around, almost like this, there's this expectation of us to feel, if we don't feel bad and if we aren't wet with everybody else, then we're bad people. Does that make sense?
It's the expectation of us, yes, because if we are not in it, then there must be something wrong with us. We're insensitive, or we lack empathy. This is a good one, because what I noticed, also, just as a side note, we don't watch television. So the important stuff, the big things we hear from, friends and family, like the really big things, like we heard this one.
Yeah.
I've noticed in my community that it's almost like it's one more thing to allow them to get down, if you will. And I'm not trying to be insensitive. But it's like, gosh, what about all those people? And then they put themselves in there, and that's where it gets tricky. So I have noticed that, though, people saying, oh, how can I launch this, or how can I take care of myself? And the one quote that's coming up to me, I don't know who said this, but it was like, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Like, I don't know who said that, but it was like, everything going on in the world right now, like, we actually can't really do anything about it for the most part. We can send some funds or help those in need, I think, but what way can you show up that is not draining and getting wet with them? That I think that's where it's at for me. Because they're even talking about it at schools, and having all, and that's fine. Let's all talk about it. Let's go on a conversation of what we can actually do to help. But sitting in the mud, I think with it, I think that is the worst thing that we could possibly do, because then here we go with energy and stuff like that. When we're down, then our families are down. And then when our families are down, then they go to school. This is just kind of kid related. But then they go to school and they're kind of down and their energy is mucky and yucky. Or if we are down feeling yucky and we go to work and we're like, oh, how can we uplift ourselves even with all the stuff going on in the world? Because it was like the last 2 years were kind of crazy. And then this happened, and I think it was like one more emotional roller coaster that I think we could, I don't know, we can handle a little differently. So I just have noticed with my clients, it's like, well, I can't even focus with all the heaviness in the world. Like, go home and love on your family. Honestly, like, go home,
Beautiful.
have a conversation with your partner, or have a conversation with your kid, or, give love. I don't know, like, give love in your own community. Go sit with a girlfriend that you adore that maybe you haven't connected with. Like, then the two of you, your vibration and your energy, is uplifted. I don't have like an answer per se. I just feel we all need to be giving more love, taking care of ourselves, and yes, helping those in need. But like, it's so true. It's like we are the culmination of how many, 6 people or whatever. So go love on them, and then they'll go love on 6 more people, and they'll
Yes.
go love on 6 more people, and your kids will be more patient. It's a tricky thing, because I personally don't get entangled in that, but that's just me, because that's our lifestyle. We have a farm. I can go to the land and recharge and whatever, but it does affect people. But how much do you need to let it affect you?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful explanation, Shauna. Thank you for that. I think it's so powerful and so true. And I think a lot of the goddesses listening are going to appreciate hearing that from you, as somebody that has 3 children, because I know a lot of times the kids come home and they're like, I heard this at school, I heard that in school. And it's definitely challenging to navigate all this. But one thing you said that I really want to highlight about that is what I gathered was the concept of either or thinking, right? Like right, society is all about
It's
either
like, yeah,
or, yes or
black or white,
black or
vanilla or
white,
chocolate.
right or wrong. And we can actually do both. We can be compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
and we can donate and do the things and help our community, and we can also be happy in our lives. And
Yep.
like you said, it's like the ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in my opinion, is like, when you mentioned we're really responsible for taking care of ourselves. When we start to really take care of ourselves and then that ripples to our family and to our community, imagine what's possible.
No, really. I wholeheartedly agree. And it is a big thing, because it's, big and everyone needs to be talking about it, but how much do you need to entangle? That's where we have to be careful, because that's where our past trauma will come, and we'll get entangled, and we'll put ourselves in their shoes and whatever. And I don't know. I think that we need to be a little bit mindful also of what we're inputting into our, television, social media. Just
Mm-hmm.
take it with a grain of salt also. That there's ways that you can contribute financially, or helping. I don't know, to be honest, but we are in control of this only. Like, I can't control everything going. I can't even control my kids,
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
much as I'd like to. So how can I optimize this here, my heart and my soul, and how I show up for my family and my people and my community, um, at the always the best that I possibly can, like, do my best no matter what.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for saying that, because um, yeah, entanglement is something that I feel is often associated with being a good person, right?
Mm-mm.
Like, in order to be a good person, I need to entangle, right? And get involved. And what that really does, oftentimes getting entangled, right? In other words, putting your nose in maybe in business that you don't really need to be. We don't need another like person talking
giving
about
their
how
opinion.
terrible things are, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What the world actually needs is more people talking about how beautiful life is, even despite the bad things, even despite all the things going on. The world is still, there's so much beauty going on. There's so many amazing people doing amazing things. The earth is gorgeous. And we can have both. We can see, you know, yin and yang, like we need a balance of both, not either or.
Well, and didn't what was his name, Mr. Rogers, didn't he say always find the people helping or something? Like I just visioned that, like there's so many people. Our friend Sarah, she knows someone out in where they're helping the situation, like literally physically in the place. I don't know how they're helping like kids or whatever. She shared a video and I was like, you know, like, but don't bring all the messiness home. That's talk about it. Yes, like current events, yes, I get it, but we have to be able to ground ourselves. Like I'm thinking of like putting your feet on the planet, you know, like honestly, like do the things that can help you minimize the muckiness, because we don't need anything else to bring us down. We need to heal, we need to lift ourselves up. Like you can share that, like how can you really de-stressify, how can you minimize the stuff that's incoming, because then that's what you're outputting. You know, if you're watching television 24 hours a day, that's bad news anyway. It's kind of toxic, but how can you regulate that? Basically, that's kind of like, you know, you have the knowledge on that one. I'm just thinking of grounding your feet on the ground, eating.
Yeah, I mean, that's something really like simple, you know, just doing something like grounding outside. If it's too cold outside, find something that you really enjoy doing with your hands. Like that's really grounding.
Okay.
Whether it's playing with your plants, you know, something, or I wouldn't recommend maybe video games, like, but something that brings you back to Pachamama, to Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I want to add too is for people that are like, I just want to do something, like I feel so badly. It actually, one thing that you can do that's really, really powerful, like you mentioned, is raising your vibration, being happy and being joyful. Like that's, I really believe that's our personal responsibility now.
I love that.
It's really how the world's going to change is when, like you said, when you are higher vibration, when you're in your joy and your inner peace, that is what you're going to put out, and other people are going to feel that. And if you're going to put out fear and worry and disease and all the horrible things, that's what you're going to put out. You're going to, so it's like, what do you choose? Do you want to put out a higher vibration, or do you want to put out a lower vibration? So there's a lot of power in that, I believe. I agree. Making that choice.
And it is choices, you know, and you wake up every day and you choose, what do you want to allow in? What do you want to allow out? You know, go pet your dog. You know, that was one thing, like another grounding thing, or what elevates you. That's, you know, my whole focus is on the woman, because I feel like we're going to solve the problems of the earth, you know, the people's craziness, and we're going to be really the people that heal the crazy stuff that's happened in the past, but we are going to heal the generational stuff. We're going to uplift people and say, come on, let's do this with me. We're going to higher places. And I don't think that sitting in the fear is a healthy, that's not doing the inner work. That's just getting in the mess, getting in the mud with the pigs.
Yeah, I love that analogy, especially since you actually have pigs, Shauna. I love that. That's beautiful. And, you mentioned generational trauma. I think that's something that you talk about often, right, on your podcast and with your
Yeah,
clients.
yeah.
So, for people listening and they don't really understand, like, what to you, what is generational trauma? What does that mean?
It's honestly repeating the chaos cycle over and over and over. And it could look like, not valuing yourself. It could be anger. It could be, maybe an abusive past that you never really healed from. And so you're insecure and there's so many. I did a whole episode on that one too, but so many symptoms of trauma that I think we're walking around with a lot of unprocessed trauma. So then we get triggered, or we pick partners that aren't the best for us, or we stay in jobs that are toxic, or hang around with people that are toxic because we haven't healed something. We haven't learned the lesson that maybe we needed to in the past.
Yeah.
So for me, even like we had talked about this before too, I was a sensitive child growing up. So I was very sensitive, always was crying about things, and I view that now as a gift. But when I was a kid growing up, 6, 5, 7 years old, whatever, I was told, oh, you're so sensitive, Shauna's crying again. It was always like there's something wrong with me. Here I am, 43 years old now, and I realized there's nothing wrong with me. Like the emotion that I felt, I just didn't understand it, and I was never allowed for it to come up and go down. There was something wrong, so I stuffed it all in, as a lot of women probably have, and they can relate. So ending this generational dysfunction, if you will, I have a 7-year-old who is exactly like me. I can see him. He explodes, and I'm now holding space for him. I hold him and hug him, and I say, everything is okay. You're having big feelings. Let's just watch it come up, and then in a few minutes or however long it takes, it'll just go down. And at the end, when the whole episode is done, I go, now doesn't it feel better that you like released it? And I don't give him any like, oh, there's something wrong, because I think so many of us have pushed all this stuff down, so now we're adults walking around with this trauma. And it can be better. Like, it can be easier to have heartache, and it can be, lighter triggers. It can be so many lessons that we can learn from, but not if we're not aware of these things that we have going on. That was a long explanation, but we got to stop it. We have to stop it, otherwise we're going to give the kids, they'll be the next generation that brings all this crazy trauma. Oh yeah, it's just normal. And we need to normalize the emotions and don't press your feelings down. Please don't push your feelings down.
Yeah.
Let them come up, because you probably know too, they manifest into yucky stuff, health issues, and if it doesn't go out, it goes in and sets somewhere. And again, you can probably explain it better than me, but we have to handle that.
Absolutely. It's so important. And I appreciate you addressing this, because I feel like, again, it's one of those things that I'm seeing a lot on social media, but a lot of people might hear it and not fully understand what that means. Like, what is ancestral trauma? What is that? So I think it's an important thing to talk about. And you gave some really great examples, especially, I mean, again, whether you're a parent or you're not a parent, chances are there's somebody in your life that's watching you, either at, like you mentioned, work, or your nieces or nephews, or even on social media. Like, there's people paying attention to you and watching you.
Mm-hmm.
And to heal that generational trauma is basically saying yes to our future, saying yes to our children, saying yes to, ultimately, I believe that the more we dive into this work, we're not going to see wars anymore. We're not going to see some of this BS that goes on in the world. We're going to actually be able to rise above that. I remember being a little kid, also very sensitive individual, very empathetic, and saying to my parents, I just don't get it. Like, this is stupid. I want to move. I said, I want to move to Canada, or I want to move to, what was it? Is it Switzerland, right? It's a
Oh,
neutral
nice.
country.
Yeah.
I don't get war. People are stupid.
Mm-hmm. And as a
And
kid, that's powerful.
I always been a lover, not a fighter. So
Mhm.
yeah, like I feel like that is really, you know, if you're not fully convinced of why it's so important to heal this trauma and to work on yourself and love yourself and practice radical self-care, and
Mhm.
consider the cost it is going to be for your children and then for the future generations down the road. It's a huge gift to be selfish to other people. It's a huge gift to other people to take care of ourselves and be quote unquote selfish.
I agree. And it's one of those things, it's like, who's going to do the work, you know? And I know a lot of people, just hitting the trauma thing, I know a lot of people don't want to go through it again, especially if it was like abuse or alcoholism or anything like that. But one, for me, just experiencing, because I had a lot of trauma stuff, but for me, it was like rewriting those stories, you know. And we had talked earlier about like our folders, that, you know, the unworthiness or the trauma, or someone said something that I was so sensitive or whatever, that's
Yeah.
still stored in our minds, in our subconscious, and then we behave. So we're these adults that are acting like children, you know, getting anger and getting into fights and having road rage or what it's such a whole, it's such a whole big thing. But when we can handle our past and literally rewrite our stories and change our minds to say, no, I'm worthy, no, I'm going to take care of myself, no, I don't need your permission, or whatever it is, you literally change your path. And then even kids, not kids, the people following, the next generations of people, you're like paving the way. I get the chills talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good. I know stuff is hard, but when you're angry or snapping at people all the time, or you have unprocessed trauma, it literally affects your daily life. So imagine healing that and allowing yourself to experience massive love. Imagine what that will do for people and work, friends, community, like kids, no kids, whatever, your parents, your grandparents, and just saying, I had the greatest life. You know, I am living my life the way that I want to and the way that I see it. And when you can come from that loving place, that's what's going to cure the crazy wars and the crazy weird stuff going on, you know. Love first, and then you love on everyone else. I don't know, I can talk about this stuff all day long because it's so
I
good.
know. And I feel like I'm like channeling like John Lennon right now, right? Doesn't he sing a song like love is
Yes,
the answer?
yes, yeah. No, and I'm very into reggae, and Ziggy Marley has a song, and it's love is my religion. It's like, I mean, because we're very spiritual, we're not like, you know, whatever, but it's so true. It's like love on yourself as much as humanly possible, and when you operate from that, that's what you give out, you know. It's just like
Mhm.
what you're talking about, raising you up, and then that's what you're putting out, so that's what you get back.
Yeah.
It's all like this.
Yeah, and we're all, you know, we're all energy and we're all feeding off of each other, which, you know, it's not like the mainstream conversation, but if we can get into that headspace of loving ourselves, that's such a powerful, powerful way of being. So much more powerful than anything else, I believe.
I agree. It's so good.
Ah, chills.
I
So
know.
so the goddesses are listening and they're like, you know, Shauna, I get it, but you know, I'm a little skeptical, you know, like I'm married to this like very like rational person. If I start going around talking about love, or maybe, you know, I'm an engineer, like I don't do these kinds of things. Like, but they realize how they're hindering their lives or they're not helping themselves by being in this like kind of crazy roller coaster way of being, right? What is something that they could do, like, you know, just do right now that's really easy, that is totally loving for themselves, that may not be like, oh, love and light, love and light.
Right. I honestly, so my whole thing, I mean, even when I was a food blogger, I was like, we were having dance parties in our kitchen. Like it just, you know, cooking is hard for 3 kids and newborns and all this and a husband and 2 dogs barking around. I think the more that you have fun, honestly, this is so, it's radically simple.
Yep.
How can you have more fun in your life? Seriously, you don't have to get all woo woo. You don't have to buy the crystals and the moons and the you know, singing bowls and everything that's yeah, start that if that's your thing. The more that we can have some mother a fun
Yeah.
is how, like, tapping into that, like, you know, we can dance, we can play, we can, you know, sing or ride a bike or do artwork or lift weights or whatever that can be. Like, what is fun for you? Because when you do that and you just are a raw human being doing something for pure joy, not to prove anything to anyone, not to check your, you know, stupid to-do lists off. It's like, what can you do to tap into you honestly, to have more fun? I don't know what that looks like. It's so, one, I kind of call it like the one small thing, like that. When you have fun and just make it just for you, like your little thing that you can do, exercise, playing, you know, water balloon fights, like whatever, humor, comedy, I don't care. When you tap into that and really allow yourself honestly to play and have fun as an adult, it's like that, I don't know, that for me is it. Because again, you don't have to go to the crystals, you don't have to you know, pull your cards or anything like that, but when you have fun and nothing can bother you or nothing can take that away, there's something healing and powerful in that.
Bingo. That's it. And it can be that. And the nice thing about this is it can be anything. So whatever you consider fun. And I know there's people out there that, because I've worked with these people, they're like, I don't know how to have fun. Like,
Wow.
You got to start somewhere. So even if it's just changing your dialogue, like, I know how to have fun. My life is fun. You could just,
Right.
you know, change
Self-talk.
the self-talk that you have. So thank you. That is so powerful. And so go out and have fun, goddesses.
Just, I mean, think about the happiness and the joy, even a dance class, like a sexy dance class or whatever, like, and it's, you get to decide that. And if you don't know, I kind of lost myself after having my 3rd kid too, but like, start piquing those interests again. Like if you find someone, one of your girlfriends that tried a dance class, go try it. Or you know, if you want to, whatever. And that's why it's so important, because it's up to you. It's not what the gurus tell you what is fun. It's whatever you need in your life. And I think we need to do more of that. I think that's where we really need to start.
Fun is foundational, right? It's right there with eating and sleeping. I think human beings by nature, you know, if you watch your animals, like your dog, like I watch my dog and my cat, they're having fun all the time. And I'm like, we're mammals just like them. Like,
yeah,
we're meant to have fun and enjoy our lives. So thank you so much, Shauna, for
you're so welcome
for offering that. And if people are listening, goddesses are listening, and they're like, wow, I like that chick. Like, how can I find out more? How can they find you? Where can they look?
Well, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me at It's Shauna Bryant. It's SHAUNA. And then you can go to shaunabryant.com. We have some fun stuff on there. And a lot of good magical, powerful, ruffle feathering things coming up in the coming months, because I think women need to feel more empowered, and that's my goal, is to give, not hand people their power back, but help them remember that they have it in the first place.
Oh, yes. Yes, that is beautiful, because so many of us have forgotten who we are.
I agree.
Thank you so much, Shauna. That was a beautiful conversation. I'm very grateful, just grateful for this collaboration. So, and you have a podcast too, right? I just want to make sure
I
I mention
do.
that.
Yes, it's called The Possibility Show. Actually, it's so much fun. And it's kind of all about focusing on what's possible for you when you believe in yourself, and when, all the stuff that we talked about, when you really dive in and do the inner work, like creating this life that you want to live. You had said it's anything is possible for you. And I love that. I love it. It's so much fun.
Oh, I love that name too. All right, goddesses. So go find Shauna online, listening to her podcast. Thank you so much, Shauna, for being here. And for all the goddesses listening, thank you so much for being here and listening to the end. And always remember to be radiant, be powerfully authentic, and know that you can reclaim your fire at any time. Until next time, take care.
Hi, this is Angela Noel, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have found value in listening to this podcast, I would be so grateful if you could kindly share this podcast with those you care about. Please help me spread the word of empowerment and possibility and expansion by sharing this podcast. Or you could also leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Remember to follow me on Instagram at I am Angela Noel, or you could go to my website at www.angelanoelinternational.com to learn more about my work and to find out how you can work with me. Thank you very much.